back to This is my testimony. I'm third class Sean Edghill, and this one is all about miracles. So, honest question, do you think miracles still happen? I definitely did not until 2017, and here's why. Okay, so I was about a week out from going on my very first missions trip. It was the summer going into my freshman year of high school, and my mom one weekend started having some chest pain in the middle of the night. So my dad woke me up literally in the middle of the night, pitch black, and he was like, hey, I gotta take your mom to the hospital, she's having chest pain. You're in charge of your brothers until I get back. And so boom, he was gone. And what, you go back to bed after somebody tells you they're taking your mother to the hospital because she's chest pain? No. So I got up, walked laps around our basement, and just kind of was waiting to hear back from anything. And eventually my dad, texted me. He's like, all right, we're coming back, and everything. I'll tell you more when you get back. So he comes back home with my mom, and she had this chest pain in the middle of the night, and it was really bad, so we decided to go in. And the doctor was just like, oh, it looks like you just have a bad case of pneumonia. Here's some antibiotics and medicine. They should help within, 3 days, right? So we're like, okay, fine, whatever. She's got a cough and some other cold, pneumonia-like symptoms, some trouble breathing, and some chest pains. We're like, okay, I guess it's fine. Doctors know what they're doing. So yeah, so the rest of the week goes on, and it doesn't get worse, but it doesn't really get better. It's just kind of, steady state, but things are fine. So the next weekend comes up, and now it's time for me to go on this mission trip. So, my parents drop me off at the church, and we say goodbye, and I get ready to go, and then we depart for this mission trip. And I really am not thinking anything of it. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, the medicine's gonna work, whatever, they're gonna take care of it. I'm not really worried. So, we're into this mission trip. And we were in Detroit, and we're doing all this work in abandoned neighborhoods. So we're going through where there's abandoned houses and just cutting down trees, getting rid of vines, taking trash out, just trying to clean it up so there's not a hazard. And so this is very physical, demanding work, and we're just doing our stuff. And two days go by, and having a great time, really close to God. We're doing all these service projects. We're doing worship every night, and I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. And we get to the third day of the mission trip. And in the mornings we would do more service projects, go to a soup kitchen or a Salvation Army type of thing, or something along those lines. And so we would break off, because we had a pretty big group that went, so we'd break off into these smaller groups, and we'd take these vans and we would drive around to these different places where we do these service projects. And then the afternoons is when we would do the blight removal in the city. So my group is getting ready to go, and we're supposed to be going to this soup kitchen place, and they're trying to figure out transportation and everything because there's only so many seats in each van. And we have not had any issues up to this point, but I remember one of the pastors who was on the trip that I had known for a long time was like, hey, it looks like we don't have enough room in all the vans, do you mind riding with me, and we'll just drive separately, because he had his personal car there. And I was like, sure, yeah, no problem. So we walk out to the parking garage and we get in this car, and I sit down, he sits down, and he doesn't start the car, there's just kind of this awkward pause, and then he turns over and looks at me, and I'm like, oh shoot, what's going on here? And he's like, hey, so I got a call from your dad. And immediately I thought back to the first day we got there on the trip, because we were staying on a college campus in downtown Detroit, and there were people walking by, and we opened up our windows, and we were like, hey, how's it going? I don't know, we were messing with them. So I was like, oh, they called, they reported us, I don't know. I was freaking out. I thought I was in trouble. So he's like, yeah, I got a call from your dad. Your mom just had open heart surgery yesterday. And I was like, wow. I'm like, wow, but also something hits you in the moment, you just you can't even comprehend it. So he says that, and I'm just like, oh, what does that even mean? And this pastor was a retired nurse, so he didn't give me a lot of detail, but he basically was like, yeah, so she had open heart surgery. Things are looking pretty, she's doing all right, but she's in the ICU, so she's not in the best state. But he's like, you have a few options. He's like, you can choose to, leave the trip right now. We can go drive straight to the hospital, and you can see her and be with your family, and just we'll just be done with the mission trip. you know, you can call your dad, like, you can finish today and then like leave, like, you know, kind of whatever, you can do whatever you want to do with this. And, you know, so I'm sitting there and like, and I'm thinking about what to do, and like, and he's like, you know, I will warn you, like, seeing, like, going to the ICU, like, she's not gonna look good, like, it's not gonna look good at all. So I'm like, okay, you know what, what's the point of me even like leaving? Like, there's something I can do, like, I'm not a doctor, it's not gonna fix the situation, like, you know, like, if things do deteriorate, like, whatever, like, then we can take care of that if we get to that point. But basically, I just decided, you know what, let me just stay on the admission strip. There's really nothing that I can do to make anything happen, so I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing. So I kept doing the admission strip thing, and I didn't really like tell a bunch of people, and like we just kept doing our thing. Most people on the trip had no idea that this was going on, and you know, I was kind of just praying about it. But at the end of the day, I was pretty much like, it's out of my hands. There's not really anything to do. So we finished the trip, and I come back home, and you know, basically my dad picks me up, and we go straight to the hospital. And to the hospital, I see her, and like, if you've never experienced this before, let me tell you, it is quite the feeling to see somebody like your mom, like, just sitting in a hospital bed looking like there's barely any life left. Like, it is a very strange feeling to see that, because especially like my mom is like very like strong-willed, like takes care of her own, like no issues. Like, it was very, very hard to see her in that type of position. And obviously I knew at that point, like, they'd already operated, so I knew like we had already kind of gotten past the worst point, but I still didn't really have a lot of details like what happened. And so then I finally, like, my dad explained to me everything that happened. And basically that weekend before I left on the mission trip, when she first had the initial chest pain, was her aorta was splitting. So this is what your aorta is, and it's right here, and it's basically like the main valve for distributing blood throughout your body. So it's very important. And it, you know, it's not an uncommon thing for it to split. It happens oftentimes with like older people and people with other health issues, but basically it's just a genetic mutation where it just starts to split right down the middle, and so then you start internally bleeding, and it's very bad. And so that has started happening that weekend. Now, when I got dropped off the next day, she went back to the hospital because it was getting worse. And, you know, doctors were like, okay, let's do like a CT scan or an MRI, figure this out. They did a scan, saw what was happening, immediately took her into surgery. And basically, you know, obviously once they repaired the issue, all the doctors were trying to figure out like what the heck just happened. Because, you know, it doesn't usually happen to someone who's in their 40s to have an aortic dissection. And basically what happened was that weekend before it started splitting. Now, typically the split, like the time that it takes for it to completely split is around 24 hours, but oftentimes a lot faster. So like there's really no sign, like the doctors have no way to explain why it, like, she was able to walk around with it for a week, because typically you would be dead within 24 hours of that happening. So that was like the first thing. I was like, wow, like my mom really like should technically not be alive right now. And the fact that she was able to last that whole week without dying and then able to be operated on, it just like blew my mind. So to answer the question, do miracles still happen today? I 100% believe they do, because I've seen it in my own life. And it doesn't always have to be on this big of a scale, but like that's insane. Like the fact that, you know, God was able to intervene in a situation like that, because like I said, like scientifically and medically speaking, like there's absolutely no explanation like for what happened. Like doctors literally for years after this happened, we're still having like follow-up appointments with my mom, always trying to find like an explanation, and they could not come up with anything. They were running tests, they were trying to figure out, could not come up with any reason for why, for like somehow she was able to last for a whole week. Like if you talk to anybody in the medical industry, like or like medical professional, like they will tell you, like if there are signs presented for an aortic dissection, they don't mess around, they immediately operate on that. So obviously, like it was kind of like just crazy to see that happen in my own life, where I'm like, you know, like I said, like my mom really shouldn't be here today, medically speaking, but she is. And I think a lot of that goes back to like God loves us so much, and he was willing to intervene in this situation, and it blows my mind. So yeah, miracles happen. If you have any more questions, I'm more than willing and happy to talk about it. But thanks for listening to another This Is My Testimony, and have a great week.